You're listening to University Atlas, Episode 3, Love Thy Roommate. Hello, and welcome back to University Atlas, a podcast by and for the student body of John Atlas University. I'm Juno Hyde, your host, your campus oracle, and today, it seems, I will be taking up the temporary role of Universal Conflict Resolution Counselor. It has come to my attention, via my associate Cassie, that some of you are not being very good roommates. Cassie has brought me this information, not as a snitch, but because she sincerely cares about everyone's happiness, and also because she's an RA, and it's her job to keep conflict out of the dorms. And it seems that conflict is in ripe abundance this first week. There have been multiple complaints and requests to change dorms, and I've received an overabundance of questions regarding how to manage a healthy relationship or enact revenge upon a difficult roommate, which is why I'm devoting this week's episode to that very topic, how to be a good roommate, also known as how to be a decent human being. Let's begin this discussion with what I can only assume will be a lengthy ask and you might receive. This is a question segment where you can submit your questions on Twitter or via carrier pigeon, and the only rule is to never discuss the Atlas Weekly student newspaper. We have a long history of petty violence between our news channels, but they started it, so if they want peace, they'll have to work for it. I usually include the name of the question asker in this segment, but for this episode, I think it might be best for those askers to remain anonymous, for their own safety. Our first question comes from Anonymous. They ask, my roommate keeps trying to summon demons in the closet mirror. What is my next course of action? Question asker, I really wish you'd included more details, because I really feel those are vital to the answer. What sort of demon are they trying to summon? What are they using to draw symbols on the mirror with? What time of day are they performing said rituals? Do you suspect they're being compelled, or acting of their own free will? If the latter is the case, and they're not causing permanent harm to the mirror, and the demon is only there to act as a spiritual guidance counselor, then I see no issue with it. John Atlas University respects recreational demonic contact, as long as it does not endanger any person on campus or cause damage. And of course, using a demon to cheat on exams is a violation of the academic honesty policy, so don't do that either. Set up some boundaries with your roommate, such as when you'd prefer them to do their summoning, and when you'd prefer them not to, like when you're trying to sleep. And maybe recommend they use a whiteboard marker to draw on the mirror, instead of blood. Also, and this is important, make sure they close the mirror with the proper ritual when they're done, so nothing else manages to get through. But if you suspect more sinister intentions, take action immediately. Report them to your RA or contact the priests in the Whitewoods Chapel. Avoid looking at the mirror at all costs, and do not sleep in your room until it's been cleared by a professional. If you need somewhere to stay, the university keeps several dorms open and available in case of hauntings, possessions, or other emergencies. Ask your RA or talk to your dorm's front desk if this becomes necessary. Our next question. Anonymous asks, I moved into an apartment with my friend. It is a 3-bedroom apartment, so we're sharing with a stranger. When my friend and I moved in, we noticed the third door was unlocked and our roommate had apparently already dropped off their boxes. But it's been a week now and we've never seen them. Their stuff is still in its boxes, untouched, and we've tried contacting them but received no replies. My friend and I drew a salt line around the entire room. Was this the right thing to do? What should we do next? This is an excellent question, Anonymous. The salt line was absolutely the right move. I would suggest reinforcing it every day and calling the priests of the Whitewoods Chapel to come take a look. Smudge the rest of the apartment with sage, which is available in the bookstore. Burn some lavender candles, that should keep any ghosts away. But in the case it's a demon, arm yourself with holy water. If you hear knocking or other noises coming from inside the room, don't answer it. Anonymous asks, my roommate has a boyfriend and asked me if it's alright if he comes over for you-know-what. I'm not comfortable with this, but she said it was alright because they wouldn't do it when I was there, but I'm still not comfortable. Personally, I'm not convinced that sex is a real thing that real humans actually do, so answering this is difficult. I suppose you should set up boundaries with your roommate and hold them accountable. If you're not comfortable with them having sex in your room, even when you're not there, then they need to respect that. If they don't, try sabotage via whoopee cushion and fart spray, available in the bookstore. I can only assume it's hard to have sexy time when the whole room smells like the toilets in Ward Hall. Or if you want to be boring, ask your RA to help you come to a solution. Your relationship with your roommate needs to be one of mutual respect. They respect your boundaries and you respect theirs. If that's not happening, despite your efforts to fix it, then talk to your RA about getting reassigned to a new room. Anonymous asks, what do I do if I accidentally look at my roommate's butt? Additional details. I've never shared a room before. My roommate is nice, but we are both pretty quiet, so we get along but we don't know each other super well. They said they don't mind if I change in front of them and I feel the same, but I'm terrified I will accidentally look and they'll see me looking. If this happens, what do I do? This one's pretty easy to answer. If you look and they catch you looking, you have to own up to it. Don't pretend you weren't looking because you were. Ask them if they've been working out. If they say yes, say, you'll have to show me your routine sometime. Boom. Done. The only problem is now you've agreed to go to the gym. If they say no, look surprised and say, could have fooled me. Now, this will only work once, so if it happens again, I'm not sure how to help you. Just claim you saw a ghost in their sock drawer or something. Next question. I'm allergic to cats. I got assigned a roommate who is a lycanthrope, and I thought this would be fine because I assumed they'd be a wolf or something, but they're a tiger. Turns out tigers are in the same family as cats, and I'm just as allergic. I haven't been able to breathe since Saturday, and it's not even the full moon. What do I do? Dear Anonymous, have you tried not being allergic to cats? I like cats very much. I don't have one, but my roommate does. His name is Mac, as in mac and cheese, and he doesn't like me very much, but I can't figure out why. Maybe he's threatened by me. I'm not sure. Anyways, you should probably talk to one of the science department professors. They're always looking for new test subjects for new experiments, and I'm sure you could talk one of them into developing a cure for you. Anonymous asks, my roommate works an opening shift and has to get up early. I wouldn't mind, I can normally go back to sleep, but they insist on using multiple alarms and hitting snooze upwards of 12 times before they actually get up. How do I deal with this? I feel I'm also underqualified to answer this, as I accidentally cursed myself as a child with an old spellbook I found, and ever since that day, I've never needed to sleep. I don't even have to blink anymore, but I'm sure it can be frustrating to lose out on sleep, even if I don't actually relate. My roommates sure get frustrated when I accidentally wake them up during the night. Apparently I'm a loud reader? I don't even know what that means, I'm just turning the page. Ask your roommate if they'd be willing to limit themselves to just one snooze, or if they'd consider changing their alarm noise to something you can sleep through, like a political debate or football commentary. If they fight back, remind them that a shared space demands compromise. A good person will understand and make efforts to change. If they don't, you can always bribe the raccoons to steal their laundry, but you didn't hear that from me. This next question comes from Anonymous. Anonymous asks, help! My roommate is super hot, what do I do? Easy, seduce them. Next question. I have a condition where I faint at the sight of blood. Yesterday, I opened my mini fridge and found my roommate's blood bags in the butter tray. Next thing I know, I was waking up and I'd missed pre-calc 1. I don't want to be rude to my roommate, he needs his blood to stay fresh, but I can't open the mini fridge with it inside. How am I supposed to store my cheese sticks? First of all, Anonymous, you're not missing anything by fainting through pre-calc. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but math isn't real, nor is it important. Secondly, did you happen to see what type of blood it was in the bags? Not that it's important, I'm just curious if vampires have a preference. I can imagine it would be O negative, and I'm not just saying that because it's what I've got. Thirdly, you can fix this by asking your roommate to store his blood in the community fridge. Each dorm has one. If this is too much of a risk for him, which is understandable, those fridges are basically a free-for-all zone, get a second mini fridge. Our last question of the day comes from Anonymous. They ask, I have a jar of my favorite candy, chocolate espresso beans, in my dorm. My roommate said that she likes them, so I told her she could help herself, to be nice. But she's eaten nearly half the jar in just a few days. I don't want to hide the jar when I said she could have some, and I really am happy to share. I just wasn't expecting her to take so many, and they're kind of expensive. How do I fix this? First of all, question asker, you have an excellent taste in candy. Second of all, I got a lot of questions about how to regulate sharing food between roommates. In my experience, there are 3 simple guidelines to follow, but be sure to discuss these with your roommate. There are 3 categories of food: ingredients, snacks, and meals. Ingredients are usually fair game. Need a pinch of sugar for your coffee? Need a little bit of butter for a bagel? Help yourself. If you find yourself using your roommate's ingredients a lot, maybe offer to buy a replacement. When it comes to snacks or candy, like the espresso chocolates, many roommates will tell you to help yourself. I find it's best to partake of this offer about once a week, maybe twice. And meals are ask only. Things like frozen burritos, ramen packs, mac and cheese, ask before you eat. Even things like yogurt and bananas, which qualify as a full meal to most college students. So, Anonymous, ask your roommate if she's willing to agree to those guidelines. If you feel awkward bringing up the espresso beans, and I can't say I blame you, maybe buy her a bag of her own and make it clear that those are hers and the ones in the jar are yours. It can be uncomfortable to address those kinds of topics, but it's better to talk about it than harbor a grudge, and most people will be understanding. Let's also take a moment to talk about general dorm etiquette. Your roommate or roommates are obviously the first people you need to consider when it comes to sharing spaces, but let's not forget you're also sharing with everyone else on your floor, as well as your building, and by extension, the entire campus. Your RAs will have more information on dorm rules, but let's go over a few of the main ones. All dorm buildings observe a courtesy quiet policy, meaning unnecessary loud noises or otherwise disruptive behavior, including but not limited to stomping, shouting, woodworking, tearing up the floorboards to find secret treasure, practicing your velociraptor impersonations, or dueling your arch nemesis on the roof should be minimized at all times. Official quiet hours are observed between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. During this time, when in public areas, you should silence all cell phones, tiptoe, speak in whispers or sign language, and use headphones. Speaking of headphones, please use them. Nobody likes your music, and I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you don't sound as good singing along as you think. Last year, my dorm had to put a ban on speakers in the showers because the singing competitions were getting violent, and I urge you not to repeat our mistakes. It's really hard to find rest in the restroom when someone's singing in the shower right next to you, and they don't know all the words, but you do, and you just want to leap through the curtains and correct them because it's driving you mad that they keep getting the words wrong. For the sake of those with rooms next to the stairwells, please refrain from running up and down them or slamming the doors. The stairwells echo, like, a lot, and we can hear every word you say in them, so maybe avoid gossiping in there also. Most dorms have community kitchens, including a communal refrigerator. All food must be labeled with your name, otherwise the RAs are legally allowed to take it for themselves. But your food might just get taken anyways, even if it does have your name on it, because people are buttholes. Don't be a butthole. And please refrain from reheating fish in the community microwaves. Please. Candles are not allowed in the dorms because the smoke alarms are very sensitive and for some reason college students can't be trusted with open flame. If you need candles for ritual purposes, please sign up to use the fireproofed ritual rooms available in each dorm community. If your roommate is sick and throwing up, do them a favor and relocate yourselves for a few hours. Similarly, if someone is throwing up in the bathrooms, just let them be. It's humiliating enough already. You may think you're doing the kind thing by asking them if they're okay, but if they're throwing up in the community bathrooms, then of course they're not doing okay. Unless you fear they may actually be dying, let them suffer in privacy. Please. If you live in Stack 5 of the towers, please refrain from smoking weed because it sets off the ghost fog alarms. We're not actually sure why, because none of the other stacks have this issue. On a similar note, if you live in the Ridge West, avoid using the elevator at all costs. It likes to get stuck, and then you have to do that thing where you pry open the doors and crawl out while you're in between floors, you know, like in the movies. If that sounds fun to you, I can promise you it's not. It actually kind of sucks. A few other tips. Beware of campus tour groups. Last year, I lived on a floor often frequented by these tour groups. And let me tell you, there's nothing worse than emerging from the bathroom after a shower, towel and robe and all, to find a dozen high school students and their parents blocking your escape route to the safety of your dorm. They aren't paying for a show, so don't give them one. However, if you're feeling particularly problematic on tour days, I encourage you to set up in one of the public study areas and cry as loud and as hard as possible when the tour group comes by. Bonus points if you rip up your homework and pretend to call your parents and inform them that you're dropping out. It's one of my favorite things to do on weekends. Before we wrap up, we've got a few short announcements to get through. This month's club highlight is the Practical Swordsmanship Club. Do you daydream fictional scenarios instead of going to therapy? Do you want to get the shoulders and biceps of an Amazon warrior? Do you just really like cool swords? Why not join the Practical Swordsmanship Club? It's a great way to meet new friends with similar interests, get in shape without having to deal with creepy guys at the gym, and repeatedly stab, slice, and bludgeon straw targets with a really big sword. If you're more of a Star Wars kind of person, they've also got a group specializing in lightsabers. They have duels on the fountain every Tuesday night at sundown, and if you make eye contact with any of them, you will be inviting them to duel you, so if you're not up for a duel, I'd suggest going around. This week we're opening up a few slots for our broadcast message service. Do you have a message in need of delivering that you don't mind the entire university hearing? Why not pay us to read it on the air? Most common uses of this service are to call out cheating partners, or to publicly shame those who do not contribute to group projects. We're not sure who deserves the embarrassment more. It's $4.17 to get your message on the air. All proceeds will go directly to the University Atlas team to fund this podcast. This week we'll be using the funds to replace our missing writing utensils. We started the quarter with 11 ballpoint pens, 17 mechanical pencils, 4 normal ones, and a pack of rainbow Sharpies. It hasn't even been a month, and let's see. We're already down to just 1 mechanical pencil with only half a stick of lead left, and one of those rubbery erasers that doesn't even erase, and the yellow Sharpie, which is useless. If anyone has information on where our missing pens and pencils have been vanishing to, please let us know. And if you find any of our other Sharpies, please leave them in the mailbox 54 in Equinox Hall. Please, we really need them back. The yellow one is really just so useless. Messages must be no longer than 100 words and will be vetted by the university administration before broadcast. That's all for this week, friends. It's syllabus week, but don't trick yourself into thinking your professors will go easy on you, because they won't. Remember, love thy roommate as thyself. Unless your roommate sucks. This is Juno Hyde, signing off. Thanks for listening to University Atlas. Remember to leave us a review or rating and to share this podcast with a friend. I'd like to thank Suzanna Jelsema for our theme song. Check out more of her work on her website. There's a link in the episode description. This episode of University Atlas was written, performed, and edited by Jo Griffin.